Your 20s are supposed to be the best years of your life, right? You're young, energetic, full of possibilities, and the whole world is at your fingertips. But if you're like most people in their 20s, you probably feel more confused than confident, more anxious than excited, and more lost than liberated. And here's the hard truth. The decisions you make in your 20s will shape the rest of your life more than any other decade. I've talked to hundreds of people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and when I ask them about their biggest regrets, almost all of them point back to mistakes they made in their 20s. The good news? These mistakes are completely avoidable if you know what to look out for. Today, I'm going to share the 7 biggest mistakes that people make in their 20s. Mistakes that can cost you decades of happiness, success, and fulfillment. But this isn't just about what not to do. I'm going to give you specific strategies to avoid these traps and set yourself up for an amazing life. If you're in your 20s right now, this video could literally change the trajectory of your entire future. And if you're past your 20s, this will help you understand some of the challenges you faced and maybe even help you course correct if it's not too late. The first massive mistake is living for other people's approval instead of your own values. In your 20s, you're still heavily influenced by what your parents want, what your friends are doing, what society expects, and what looks good on social media. You choose a career because it sounds impressive, not because it excites you. You stay in relationships because they look good on paper, not because they make you happy. You make decisions based on what others will think, rather than what's right for you. This approval-seeking behavior is understandable because you're still figuring out who you are, but it's incredibly dangerous. When you live for other people's approval, you end up building a life that looks good from the outside, but feels empty on the inside. You become successful at things you don't care about, and impressive to people whose opinions don't actually matter. The fix is to start developing self-awareness and identifying your own values. Spend time alone regularly, not scrolling through your phone, but actually thinking about what matters to you. What activities make you lose track of time? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? What does success actually mean to you, not to your parents or society? Start making small decisions based on your own values, even if they disappoint others. The second major mistake is treating your 20s like a practice round instead of recognizing that this is your real life happening right now. So many people think that their real life will start when they get the perfect job, find the perfect partner, buy a house, or reach some other milestone. They put off happiness, adventures, and important experiences because they're waiting for life to begin. But here's what older people know that 20-somethings often don't. There is no perfect time, and life doesn't wait for you to be ready. The experiences you have in your 20s, the relationships you build, the habits you form, and the person you become during this decade will influence everything that comes after. You're not practicing for life, you're living it. The third mistake is comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, especially on social media. Your 20s coincide with the peak of social media usage, and this creates a toxic comparison trap that previous generations didn't have to deal with. You see your college friends getting dream jobs, buying houses, traveling to exotic locations, and seemingly having perfect relationships, and you feel like you're falling behind. But social media shows you a carefully curated version of reality. You're comparing your struggles, doubts, and ordinary moments to other people's best moments. This creates a false sense that everyone else has life figured out while you're still struggling. This comparison steals your joy and makes you feel inadequate, even when you're actually doing well. The solution is to limit social media consumption and focus on your own journey. Unfollow accounts that make you feel bad about yourself, and remember that everyone is struggling with something. They just don't post about it. Instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were last year. Are you growing, learning, and moving in the direction you want to go? That's what matters. The fourth massive mistake is neglecting your health because you feel invincible. In your 20s, your body can handle a lot of abuse. You can survive on little sleep, eat junk food regularly, drink heavily on weekends, and still feel relatively okay. But this creates a dangerous illusion that these habits don't have consequences. You think you'll start taking care of yourself later when you're older, and it becomes more important. But the habits you form in your 20s become the foundation of your health for the rest of your life. The damage from poor nutrition, lack of exercise, chronic stress, and insufficient sleep accumulates over time. People who neglect their health in their 20s often spend their 30s and beyond dealing with preventable health problems, lower energy levels, and reduced quality of life. Start building healthy habits now while they're easier to establish. You don't need to become a fitness fanatic, but make movement a regular part of your life. Learn to cook basic, healthy meals. Prioritize sleep. Your brain and body need it for optimal function. Find healthy ways to manage stress. Your 40-year-old self will thank you for every healthy choice you make today. The fifth mistake is avoiding failure and playing it safe. Many people in their 20s are so afraid of failure that they don't take any meaningful risks. They choose safe jobs, safe relationships, and safe decisions because they're terrified of making mistakes. But your 20s are actually the best time to take calculated risks and potentially fail because you have time to recover and less to lose. When you're in your 20s, you typically don't have a mortgage, kids, or major financial obligations. If a business venture doesn't work out, if you need to change career paths, or if you need to start over, it's much easier to do when you're young. But if you spend your 20s playing it safe, you might reach your 30s or 40s and realize you've never really tested your limits or pursued your dreams. The sixth critical mistake is financial illiteracy and poor money management. Most people graduate college with zero understanding of personal finance, and their 20s become an expensive learning period filled with credit card debt, student loan confusion, and no savings. They think that because their salary is lower now, financial planning isn't important, but the opposite is true. The money habits you develop in your 20s will follow you for the rest of your life. If you learn to live below your means, save consistently, and understand basic investing principles in your 20s, you'll have decades for compound interest to work in your favor. But if you develop spending habits that match your income and never save anything, you'll struggle financially even as your income increases. Start by learning the basics of personal finance. Understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Learn about compound interest and why starting to save early is so powerful. Create a budget and track your spending for at least 1 month to understand where your money goes. Automate your savings so you pay yourself first before you spend on anything else. Even saving $50 a month in your 20s can grow to substantial amounts over time. The seventh mistake is staying in toxic relationships because you're afraid of being alone. Your 20s are a time when many people are desperate to find the one, or at least avoid being single. This leads to staying in relationships that aren't working, settling for partners who don't treat you well, or ignoring red flags because you're afraid of starting over. But the relationships you choose in your 20s often become your life partnerships, and staying with the wrong person can cost you decades of happiness. It's better to be single and working on becoming the person you want to be than to be in a relationship that drains your energy and stunts your growth. Learn to be comfortable being alone. Use your single time to develop your interests, build your career, and understand what you actually want in a partner. Don't settle for someone just because you're lonely or because you think you're running out of time. The right relationship will enhance your life, not complete it. The eighth major mistake is not investing in learning and skill development. Many people think that once they graduate college, their learning is done. They get a job and then coast, doing the minimum required without actively developing new skills or expanding their knowledge. But in today's rapidly changing economy, the skills that got you your first job won't be enough to sustain a successful career. Your 20s are the perfect time to become a learning machine. Your brain is still highly adaptable. You have fewer responsibilities that compete for your time, And you're early enough in your career that new skills can dramatically change your trajectory. The investments you make in learning during your 20s will pay dividends for decades. The ninth mistake is neglecting to build a professional network. Many people think networking is fake or manipulative, so they avoid it entirely. They focus only on their current job and immediate responsibilities without building relationships that could help their career long-term. But the reality is that most opportunities come through people you know, not through job boards or applications. Your 20s are an ideal time to build genuine professional relationships because you're naturally meeting new people through work, school, and social activities. The key is to approach networking as relationship building, not as using people for your own benefit. Be genuinely interested in others, offer help when you can, and maintain connections over time. Attend industry events, join professional organizations, stay in touch with college classmates, and be helpful to colleagues. These relationships can lead to job opportunities, business partnerships, mentorship, and valuable advice throughout your career. The network you build in your 20s becomes invaluable as you progress in your career. The 10th and final mistake is not developing emotional intelligence and communication skills. Many people assume that being smart and hard-working is enough for success, but emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and relate effectively to others, is often more important than technical skills. Your 20s are full of challenging relationships, stressful situations, and emotional ups and downs. If you don't learn to manage your emotions, communicate effectively, and navigate interpersonal challenges, you'll struggle in every area of life. Poor emotional intelligence leads to failed relationships, workplace conflicts, and missed opportunities. Start by developing self-awareness. Notice your emotional patterns and triggers. Learn to pause before reacting when you're upset. Practice active listening and empathy in your conversations. Learn to give and receive feedback gracefully. These skills will serve you in every relationship and every professional situation you encounter. Now, I know this list might feel overwhelming, especially if you recognize yourself making several of these mistakes. But remember, awareness is the first step to change, and it's never too late to course correct. Even if you're past your 20s, many of these principles still apply and can help you make better decisions moving forward. The key is to start where you are and focus on progress, not perfection. Choose one or two areas that resonate most with you and begin making small changes. If you're struggling with comparison, start by limiting social media for 1 week and see how you feel. If you're neglecting your health, commit to taking a 10-minute walk every day. If you're avoiding risks, identify one small calculated risk you could take this month. Remember that your 20s are a unique opportunity. You have energy, time, and fewer obligations than you'll likely have later in life. But you also have less experience and perspective, which is why these mistakes are so common. The goal isn't to have everything figured out. It's to avoid the major pitfalls that can derail your future happiness and success. Seek out mentors who are where you want to be in 10 or 20 years. Learn from people who have already navigated these challenges successfully. Read books, listen to podcasts, and continuously educate yourself about life skills that aren't taught in school. Most importantly, be patient with yourself. Personal growth is a marathon, not a sprint. You're going to make mistakes. That's how you learn and grow. The key is to make sure you're making new mistakes, not repeating the same ones over and over again. Your 20s are not a dress rehearsal. This is your life happening right now. The choices you make today will compound over time, either working for you or against you. You have the power to choose which direction your life goes. You can either learn from other people's mistakes or repeat them yourself. The people who thrive in their 30s, 40s, and beyond are usually those who made intentional choices in their 20s. They invested in themselves, built good habits, took calculated risks, and learned from their failures. They didn't have perfect 20s, but they had purposeful 20s. So what will you choose? Will you let these years slip by without intention? Or will you use them to build the foundation for an extraordinary life? The decision you make right now will determine which story you'll be telling when you look back on this decade. Make it a story you're proud of. Your future self is counting on the choices you make today. Don't let them down. Start making changes now. And in 10 years, you'll look back on this moment as the turning point when you decided to take control of your life and create the future you really want. The time to start is right now.